Hello. Welcome once again. In this video series, you learn how to develop wonderful games using Unreal Engine 5 and its blueprint visual scripting, from the single node to the most complex function. We will start by introducing you to the Unreal Engine editor and blueprint graph. Please like this video if you find it helpful and informative, and subscribe to our channel for newer updates and game development tutorials. So let's start. Since you have arrived here, it is because you want to look at blueprints in depth and learn all its secrets, from the simplest node to the most complex code extension. This is an introductory video. Here, you will take your first steps in Blueprint, you will create your first project, and start with the editor, learning its interfaces and its tools. In this chapter, we will cover the following. What is Blueprint? Different types of data, nodes, and Blueprint. Knowing the environment, debugging your blueprints, and creating a Visual Studio solution. Now, what is Blueprint? Blueprint is a high-level, visual scripting system that provides an intuitive, node-based interface that can be used to create any type of script events in the Unreal Editor. The tools that are provided can be used by level designers, artists, and any non-programmer person to quickly create and iterate gameplay or even create entire games without ever needing to write a line of the code. For those of you coming from UE4, Blueprint inherits most of the strong keys and the full range of concepts and tools. Through the use of blueprints, anyone can virtually prototype, implement, or modify any gameplay element. Here, we are going to discover how to create most of them. The following is a list of common uses that are covered by this video. First is the games. Here we set up game rules and tweaks gameplay conditions. Second is the players. Here we create variants with different meshes and materials or allow character customization. Third is cameras. Here we change the camera dynamically during play. Fourth is inputs. Here we handle the inputs that are passed by the player. Fifth is items, which includes weapons, pickups, triggers, and so on. And the last one is environment. Here we create randomized props or procedurally generated items. In order to understand Blueprint, we first need to understand its structure. The following image is an extremely simplistic graph that shows where Blueprint is collocated in a game and who are its parent and child. Each of these elements can have multiple children and each element has its different type and behavior. Types of blueprints. There are 4 main types of blueprints, each one has a specific purpose and is useful in a specific situation. We will learn how to choose the correct one while studying the examples of this video. However, in the meantime, let's take a look at them in order to understand their differences. First is level blueprints. A level blueprint is a specialized type of blueprint that, as the name suggests, acts as a level-wide event graph. A level blueprint is created by default for each of your levels and can be edited only in the level blueprint editor. This is the only type that cannot be created, and there is only one level blueprint for each level. In this blueprint file, we handle the level flow. We can control events, metany, and sequences of actions in the form of function calls or flow control operations. To open the level blueprint for the purpose of editing, click on the Blueprints button in the level, and then Editor toolbar and select Open Level Blueprint. Next is the Blueprint class. A blueprint class, simply called Blueprint, is the most used type and you will become familiar with it during this guide. This type allows the content creator to easily add functionality on top of any existing gameplay classes. A blueprint class extends a parent, either a code parent or another blueprint class, and can be edited with a visual editor. Any blueprint class that is created in the editor can be found in Content Browser and can be added to the map as an instance, like any other type of actor. The following are the most common parent classes that are used when creating a new blueprint. Number 1, actor. It is an object that can be placed or spawned in the world. Second is pawn. It is an actor that can be possessed and it receives input from a controller, which can be a user or an artificial intelligence. The third is character. It is a pawn that includes the ability to walk, run, jump, and so on. Fourth is player controller. It is an actor that is responsible for controlling a pawn. Fifth is game mode. It defines the game rules, scores, and any aspect of a game type. Now let's see what is data-only blueprint. Data-only blueprints are basically blueprint classes without the node graph. They contain all the properties and components that are inherited from its parent and allow the user to tweak properties or set items with variations without needing to find these properties in a big node graph. A data-only blueprint doesn't allow you to add new elements. However, it can be converted in a blueprint class with just one click, if required. Next is blueprint interface. A blueprint interface is similar to an interface in general programming. It allows different types of objects to share a common information setup. It is a collection of one or more functions, declarations only, no implementations that can be added to other blueprints. A blueprint interface needs to be added to a blueprint class in order to work, and a blueprint class that has implemented an interface can have and use all of its functions. A blueprint interface can be made in the editor, however, it has limitations as it cannot add new variables nor edit graphs and even add components. A good example to understand an interface is that a player, a tree, and a concrete wall are three completely different objects, but all of them can receive a projectile shot by a weapon. Instead of creating a different function for all of them, an interface can help us by creating a function, called onReceiveDamage, that is shared, however, implemented differently, by all of them. Here let's take a look at Unreal Engine 5 and its editor. We are assuming that you have already installed the engine and Visual Studio 2013 on your machine. Therefore, I will skip the process of registering, downloading, and installing the engine. If this is not the case, you can go to the Epic website, www.unrealengine.com, sign up for free and get your copy by following their instructions with a couple of easy steps. Now let's skip to creating the blueprint. We are not creating anything fancy right now. We will only explore the user interface of Blueprint and start to learn the basic commands and shortcuts in Blueprint. There are two ways to create a Blueprint class, from the content browser or from the top toolbar. The toolbar Blueprint button gives you quick access to the existing modifiable Blueprint classes, and you can access to the level Blueprint only from here. Be aware that from here you can only create the Blueprint class. If you want to create, for example, Blueprint macro library, you need to use the Add New button from the content browser. So let's create a new Blueprint class. The Add New button and its equivalent mouse command, right-click in the content browser, will open a pop-up menu with all the assets that you can create in the engine. Then select Blueprints and Blueprint class. Here, we will choose the parent class of our Blueprint script. The editor shows us the common classes. However, the list of parents that we can use is potentially unlimited. If you click on All Classes, in the left-hand side corner at the bottom, you can see a very long list containing all the objects that are available at that moment as a parent for your blueprint. Click on Actor and call it BP_first. It is very important, even for a small project, to name your assets or scripts in a smart manner from the very beginning using a suffix in order to recognize and immediately find the required file even between hundreds of files. Double-click on the BP_first file to open it and we will finally arrive at our blueprint editor. As you can see from the preceding image, the blueprint editor is divided into several panels. Each panel is independent. This means that they can be moved, resized, deleted, and duplicated in order to have a workspace that fits your choice. Let's take a closer look at all of these sections. So menu bar has the following options. First, the file. You can manage your blueprint files from here. You can save and import other assets in the session, and manage source control. There is also a section dedicated to Blueprint, where you can compile, refresh, and compare your Blueprint revision in source control. Second is Edit. This is a typical edit menu. It can undo, redo, and modify history. You can also search for something in your Blueprint or change the editor settings in Preferences. Third is Asset. Go here to open Content Browser or to check the references viewer of any of your assets. Fourth is View. View preferences can be set by this menu. Change the pin visibility or set the zoom. Fifth is Debug. Here, you can set the breakpoints and the watches for your blueprint. Next is Window. If you accidentally close one of these tabs or you want to open another tab, you can do this by going to this menu. All the Blueprint editor specific tabs are contained. It is also possible to save or load a custom layout here. And the last is Help. You can find useful information about Blueprint here directly through the Epic forum. Now, look at the toolbar. The toolbar is displayed at the left-hand side top of the Blueprint editor. Its buttons provide easy access to the common commands that are needed when editing blueprints. This is a dynamic bar, which means that it provides different buttons depending on which mode is active and which blueprint type you are currently editing, as follows, starting with Compile. Every time you modify the script and want to run it, you need to compile it. This button changes depending on the state of your script. It shows if there is an error or a warning and if the script needs to be recompiled. Next is Save. It saves the current blueprint. Find in CB. It shows Content Browser and highlights the selected blueprint. The third is Search. It finds references to functions, events, variables, or pins in the current script. Fourth is Class Settings. It opens the Blueprint Properties Details panel. These settings usually belong to the parent class of Blueprint. You can add blueprint interfaces to the blueprint class here. Fifth is class defaults. It shows the default properties in the detail panel. Here, you can change the default properties of the new instances of this class. Next is simulation. It starts the game in simulation mode. Next is play, stop, pause. It manages the execution of the game in the selected environment such as mobile, standalone, and custom viewport. Next is possess, eject. It switches from simulate in the editor to play in editor mode. Last is debug filter. If you have 2 or more instances of this class in the game, you can choose which one to debug here. In viewport, you can view and manipulate your blueprint's components. By default, you have a 3-dimensional perspective view of your object. You can manipulate the settings of the viewport using these buttons. The first button allows you to switch between perspective and the orthographic view. The second one sets how you see the object, if it is lit, unlit, or in simple wireframe instead. The right-hand top series of buttons gives you some useful tools in order to manipulate your object. Select and translate, rotate, scale object. If one of these is selected, the corresponding 3-axis images appear on the pivot point of the object and you are allowed to move, rotate, or scale the object in one or all its axes. Now check the component panel. Here, you can find all the components of your blueprint that are shown in a hierarchy form. A component is a piece of functionality that can be added to an actor. Components cannot exist by themselves. However, when added to an actor, the actor will have access to the component and use the functionality provided by it. In this panel, you can add, remove, and manage your components. Each component has its own specific purpose, and combining them allows you to create almost anything that you need. Capsule component, for example, provides collision geometry to the actor. Movement component controls the movement, audio component enables the actor to emit sound, and so on. Components added in the component list can also be assigned to instance variables, providing them access in the graphs editor. In order to add a component to Blueprint, you can click on the Add Component button and select the component from its menu. Components can also be added by dragging and dropping them from the content browser in the Components panel. Each component is placed at the location of the instance by default. However, they can be transformed, rotated, and scaled if necessary in either the Details panel or the viewport. Now check the Detail panel. The Details panel contains information, utilities, and functions that are specific to the current selection in the viewport or the content panel. It contains all the editable properties of the selected object. Now see the My Blueprint panel. The My Blueprint panel shows all the graphs, functions, macros, variables, and event dispatches contained in your blueprint, including component instance variables that are added in the component list or variables that are created by promoting a value to a variable in the graph editor. By default, your blueprint contains one event graph and one construction script for your functions, but you can add any graph, variable, or function you might need by the Add New button. The graph editor panel is the heart of the blueprint system. It is here that you will create your network of nodes, and thanks to their wires, your game lives. To add a new node to the graph, you can use the 2 methods. First is by right-clicking on the empty space or dragging any pin from an existing node, and you can also drag and drop an asset from the content browser to the graph editor. It will automatically add the corresponding node to the graph. You can also drag and drop any variables from the My Blueprint panel to the graph in order to automatically add its correspondent getter or setter, by selecting the desired node from the pop-up window that appears, or by holding Ctrl for a getter or Alt for a setter. Hope from this video you will start to move into building in more advanced mechanics in an easy-to-follow step-by-step approach which will allow you to play around and build your own content to eventually build your own game. Thanks a lot, see you in the next video.